Winter did not come alone. Rushing to claim its harvest, death crept into the small, isolated town buried deep within the woods. It arrived unnoticed, hidden in the snowfall. No one knew the exact moment it happened, only the dogs sensed it first. They howled as one in the dead of night, a haunting chorus that sent chills down spines. By morning, fresh milk had curdled in its pails, and the elders muttered about aching bones and ill omens. The village folk, though uneasy, had little time to dwell on such things. Winter days were short, and work was plenty. The storm rose fast. Within an hour, the sky darkened with heavy, leaden clouds. A biting wind carried the first flurries of snow. And the creeping frost made its way into every home. People instinctively huddled closer to their fires, unwilling to step outside unless absolutely necessary. By midnight, the village was in death's grip. A heavy fist pounded on the door of the blacksmith. "Samuel Harper, come on, old man, it's freezing out here." But Samuel did not answer. He could not. Inside, before the cold ashes of his dead hearth, he lay sprawled on the kitchen floor, unseeing eyes fixed on the ceiling, a rusted shotgun clutched in his stiff hands. Nearby, his wife Margaret lay crumpled at an unnatural angle, her head twisted grotesquely. Her lifeless arms still clung to their daughter, Emily, who lay with a gaping wound across her throat. In a carved wooden cradle, their 6-month-old son, Benjamin, rested in eternal stillness. It took less than half an hour for the town to gather in the old chapel. Men whispered in hushed voices, their breath visible in the cold air. The stove had yet to warm the place, and the grimness on their faces ran deeper than the winter chill. Never before had 4 people from the same household perished so suddenly, so violently. Word spread quickly. Rumors, laced with horror, twisted the tale further. Margaret's head wrenched backward, Emily's throat torn open, even the infant drained of blood. A deep unease settled over the villagers, a darkness older than the storm outside. The chapel doors burst open, silencing all. Ethan, the one who had found the bodies, stood at the entrance, a rifle in one hand, supporting a staggering, drunken Timothy, the town's gravedigger, with the other. Sheriff Dawson trailed behind them, his face unreadable. A charged silence filled the air. The sheriff took out a cigarette, lit it, and exhaled slowly before speaking. "Well, Timothy?" The man shivered, his breath reeking of whiskey. He took a deep drag before answering, voice hollow. "They were killed, brutally." Margaret's neck was snapped like a twig. Emily's throat was ripped apart. Even little Benjamin, not a drop of blood left in him. A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. The sheriff's cigarette burned low as he exchanged glances with Ethan. "No blood?" Ethan echoed, disbelieving, "None." That night was long. Ethan tossed and turned in his bed, haunted by Timothy's words. Sheriff Dawson sat awake in his cabin, staring at the darkness beyond his frosted window. Timothy, for once, found no solace in his bottle. And Andrew, young Andrew, who had always adored Emily, who had dreamed of one day making her his wife, lay awake. Listening to the soft whispers beyond his bedroom door. "Emily," he murmured, his voice thick with sleep. "I knew you were alive. Don't stand in the cold, come inside." His frail grandmother, paralyzed and helpless, heard everything. She wept silently in the darkness, unable to move, unable to stop the slow creak of the door as it swung open. Morning brought no peace. 6 graves had been dug, but by sunrise, 2 were empty. Snow had gathered inside, masking the truth, but the villagers knew. They whispered among themselves now, crossing themselves in fear. A word, old as time, passed from trembling lips to trembling ears. "Vampire." Timothy laughed bitterly whenever he heard it, but his laughter was hollow. The sheriff was silent, a stone among shifting sands. Ethan, clutching a rosary, barricaded his home with garlic and silver. The second storm came faster than the first. As the men finished digging the final grave, snow swirled thick, turning the world into a ghostly white void. No one spoke as they trudged back through the storm, but when they reached the village, they found 3 homes abandoned, the sisters who lived on the outskirts. The shepherd's wife and daughter. An entire family of 5, gone, no bodies. No blood. Only open doors and the howling wind. Panic spread like wildfire. Accusations flew. Those who had buried the dead were interrogated, but no one had answers. And again, night fell. Agatha woke with a start. Something had jolted her from sleep. She lay still, heart pounding, before reaching for her lamp. Her husband was among the missing, but in her heart, she had refused to believe he was truly gone. A sound at the window. A slow, deliberate scratch against the glass. She rose, breath catching in her throat. Blowing out the lamp, she peered into the night. Michael. Her husband stood outside, pale as the snow, his lips slightly parted in a smile that did not reach his eyes. His voice was a whisper, edged with sorrow. "It's cold. Let me in." Her heart swelled. Rational thought faded. Against every warning, every gut instinct screaming at her to run, she fumbled with the lock. The door opened. That night, death walked freely. One by one, the missing returned. They knocked. They begged. Some were let in. Others forced their way inside. Those who resisted found their doors shattered, their windows broken. Pale figures with dead eyes and hungry mouths moved through the village, and behind them, massive wolves prowled the snow-covered streets, their eyes burning with unnatural fire. Ethan shot his wife and child before the wolves could take them. Timothy, hearing the scratching at his door, simply shouted, "It's open," and lit a final cigarette. When the dead entered his home, he smirked, kicked over a bucket of kerosene, and struck a match. By dawn, the village burned. Flames licked at blood-stained snow, devouring homes, consuming bodies, cleansing the land in fire and smoke. The storm raged on, indifferent. No one survived. Please subscribe to the channel, and like it, and you can leave your comments. You can also watch other exciting scary stories by clicking on the links at the end of the video or enter the channel. These actions help promote the channel on the YouTube platform and inspire me to release new scary stories for you, my dear viewers.